Good evening, and welcome to our annual production of This Is My Brave, New Hampshire. My name is Lisa Madden, and I'm the President and CEO of Riverbend Community Mental Health here in Concord, New Hampshire. I'm so glad you've joined us tonight. Riverbend Community Mental Health is one of 10 community mental health centers in New Hampshire. We are dedicated to ensuring that people living with mental illness and/or addiction have access to comprehensive treatment. In addition to providing extensive office-based, community-based, and telehealth services, we also recognize our responsibility to educate our communities on the signs and symptoms of mental illness, to address the stigma that is so painful for our clients to manage and endure, and to advocate for programs and resources needed to support our community. Community mental health centers like Riverbend have been part of the fabric of our community for more than 55 years and counting. We are committed to being available to our community to help others deal with the long-term effects of COVID-19, to comprehend the tragic events around our state, country, and world, and to provide tailored treatment to those dealing with their own mental health needs. This is our fourth year presenting a series of educational events to our community to highlight the national recognition of May as Mental Health Awareness Month. Some of our efforts this month have included a free webinar for businesses on how to create a culture of mental health safety in the workplace, a book discussion at Gibson's Bookstore with author Donald Antrim as he shared insights in his book, One Friday in April, a story of suicide and survival, and bright inspirational banners hanging on lampposts downtown that you may have seen on your way in. And as you can see, the banners feature positive affirmations, hope for recovery, and bringing awareness to the importance of mental health treatment. Part of that effort has been encouraging people to know that you are not alone, and that this is exactly what you hope we get from watching This Is My Brave tonight. The stories you will hear are those of hope, resilience, and recovery from mental illness and addiction. It takes great courage to share these stories. Some may be powerful, painful, and/or funny, but every one of them will be amazing. If you or someone you know are struggling, we hope you leave today feeling inspired and knowing that recovery from mental illness and/or addiction is possible. We all have mental health, and Riverbend is here to help you take care of yours. Visit us at riverbendcmhc.org for additional information. And for immediate crisis, please call the Rapid Response Access Point at 1-833-710-6477. This is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In your programs, you'll see various sponsors and community partners, without whom we would not have been able to bring you this event. You will also find a note from the producers and information about the brave storytellers you are about to see. We would also like to recognize the generous support of our Mental Health Awareness Month sponsor, Dartmouth Health, and their ongoing investment in events such as This Is My Brave. We are very grateful for this long-standing partnership, and we are pleased to have former Chief Justice John Broderick here with us tonight. Judge Broderick is a steadfast advocate for those living with mental illness and addiction, and he would like to speak with you on behalf of Dartmouth Health. Please join me in welcoming Judge Broderick.
Good evening. It's nice to be here tonight. I wish I were here live and in person, as they say, but I'm in Burlington, Vermont, and so I had to do it by video. I want to thank Lisa for inviting me. I want to congratulate Riverbend. This is, I think, the fourth year they've done this. And I'm grateful to Dartmouth Hitchcock that they're sponsoring this event, but I'm particularly delighted to be part of it. I want to start by saying that the folks who are going to be speaking tonight are really extraordinary people. It takes courage to do what they're about to do tonight, and I admire that. And that's how change happens, by the way. And thanks to all of you for being here and being a part of it. It will mean a lot to them. For the last 6 years, with the help of Dartmouth Hitchcock, I've been traveling all over New England. I've driven about 95,000 miles. I've spoken to almost 100,000 young people, grades 6 through 12, in 300 middle schools and high schools about mental health awareness. I'm the last guy on earth to be doing this, but it's become the most important work of my entire professional life, and I mean that. And I have shared in those places my own family's journey with mental illness and my own mistakes for not seeing what we were dealing with. And our story was pretty public here 20 years ago. But the good news is we've all healed and come through it. And from all that difficult time and the courage of a lot of people who shared with me and my family at that time and since, I realized that mental health issues are an everyday, everywhere problem. I see it every time I go out. And the way we're going to change the system in mental health delivery is to change the conversation. So that people need to be brave enough, like these folks will be tonight, to get up and speak about it in very personal terms. And so once we're all willing to do that and willing to support people who are brave enough to speak out, we can then begin to develop a mental health system in this country. We have some phenomenal people in mental health. We have some at Dartmouth, obviously. We have many at Riverbend and in our community health system generally. But we need to do more. We need to be more present and more accessible. Tonight is just one more effort to advance the cause. So thank you all for being here. Thank you to these folks who are going to be brave enough tonight to share their stories. I admire all of you, I mean that. And enjoy what you're going to hear, but mostly learn from what you're going to hear. Support these people and become impatient for change, which is where I am. It's my pleasure to introduce Katie Grana, who's Director of Programming for This Is My Brave. She has a few remarks to make. And in any event, nice to be here with all of you and enjoy the evening.
Hi, everyone. My name is Katie Grana, and I'm the Director of Programming at This Is My Brave. I'm so excited to be here this evening, both on the screen and physically at the show. As you've heard, this is our 4th year in a row that Riverbend Community Mental Health has produced a This Is My Brave show, and it is our longest running production. Even more exciting tonight is that we are back to the live stage, something we have all been waiting for the past 2 years. The work and dedication put in from the Riverbend team is unmatched, and we are so grateful to have them as our partners. Additionally, I want to recognize our national sponsors who have made this season of Brave possible. AbbVie, Alkermes, Janssen Neuroscience, Society of Valued Minds, brought to you by Otsuka Pharmaceuticals, and Sage Therapeutics. On a local and national level, This Is My Brave is truly a whole community effort. This Is My Brave was created in 2014 by Jennifer Marshall and Anne Marie Ames. For 7 years, Jen led this organization fearlessly, taking us from one show in Arlington, Virginia, with only 11 storytellers, to over 80 shows with an alumni community of nearly 1,000 storytellers. Jen stepped down at the end of 2021, so we are here to continue her work combining storytelling and the performing arts to break down stigma surrounding mental illness and addiction. I met Jen in 2019 after losing one of my best friends, Jason Clayfish, to suicide after a nearly lifelong battle with depression and bipolar type 1. He was incredibly talented in the performing arts, and I know that his involvement in writing, acting, and directing was a huge part of what kept him on this earth as long as it did. He had an outlet and he could be whoever he wanted. I was yearning for something that showed me a light in the darkness of suicide loss, and This Is My Brave was just that. Thanks to a quick Google search, This Is My Brave basically fell in my lap. Jason would have adored this organization, and I see him in nearly every storyteller I meet. I myself also live with post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, and depression, which I was diagnosed with after being robbed at gunpoint in 2010. My life changed that night, and again 8 years later when we lost Jason. Finding This Is My Brave gave me a new drive and purpose, and I will fight endlessly to make sure that no one else has to go through this alone. We are here this evening because we must make it a priority to open up the conversations surrounding mental health. We're at a tipping point in our society. Suicidal ideation is increasing. Depression rates, especially among our young people, are increasing. Rates of substance use among youth and adults are increasing. What will it take to make these decrease? We believe it's storytelling. We believe that when one person shares their story, it gives others permission to do the same. Brave multiplies brave. Our Brave New Hampshire cast tonight is about to join a community of storytellers from all over the country who have decided to be brave and share their truth on our stage. By sharing our stories, we normalize the fact that sometimes our brains get sick too, and our mental health is just as valid as our physical health. This is my Brave's vision, is to get to a place where one day we will no longer have to call it brave for talking openly about mental illness and addiction. We'll simply call it talking. So I challenge you, starting right now, right after this show, to provide the stage for someone in your life. You can be the support, the lifeline, the listening ear that will save lives. You can listen to someone's story and let them know that it's okay. And no matter what, recovery is possible. Be the storyteller, be the audience. You don't need a public stage to demand better for yourself or someone else's life. Believe in the power of storytelling and remember that storytelling saves lives. The storytellers you are about to meet have come together to bring their stories of resilience and hope to the stage because they know that their story has the power to validate others and encourage them not to give up. You are about to experience something magical, and it is my honor to welcome Virginia and Alexandria, accompanied by Walker Mondock, to perform This Is My Brave's very own theme song, Tell Them I'm Brave. Thank you so much for being here this evening and enjoy the show.
And welcome to our annual production of This Is My Brave New Hampshire. My name is...
Swallowed by doubt, forgotten what freedom was like. Puzzle pieces on the floor, they don't fit in anymore. I'm changing, I'm changing. When they ask you who I am, what I've done and where I've been, there's one thing I want you to say. Tell them I'm brave, see it on my face. I am bigger than anything coming my way. It's a new day, now I'm not afraid. So if anyone asks you how I overcame, you can tell them I'm brave.
We joke that God had to send a man to teach me it was okay to cry.
Hi, I'm Ed. I'm her man.
And I'm Karen.
We
live with mental illness.
But let's back up a little.
We met 29 years ago when I was at a high in my life. I was sober 4 years, a couple of years off the streets, stabilized on the right medications. I was working third shift and going to recovery meetings each morning.
I was just getting sober and took my newfound recovery seriously. My sobriety had come a high cost. All the drugs and alcohol that I did not kill the nightmares. They just gave them living color. My wife and children left. I felt alone and hopeless. I landed in the hospital where I was introduced to sobriety and a new way of life. When I was discharged, I started going to recovery meetings.
The same ones I was attending.
The stories I heard there gave me hope. As friends, occasionally we went to breakfast after the meeting.
One day, I stole a bite of Ed's omelet.
She told me, eat faster.
Soon after that, he asked me if we could go out on a date. I panicked.
I took it back. She seemed really uncomfortable with the idea.
I was uncomfortable, but after some thought, I agreed. Then on one of our first dates, I looked over and saw tears in his eyes. It kind of freaked me out. I asked if he was okay.
I said yes. I would just miss my kids. I explained that sometimes I cry. It was one of the things the Marine Corps could not take from me.
And I explained I never cry. But I was intrigued. Here was this man who missed his kids and was comfortable crying with me. I thought he was very brave.
We took things slow, really slow. In fact, it took us 14 years to get married. She supported me when I got custody of my children, and she, a great stepmom. But things weren't easy. My son attempted suicide. His issues affected our whole family. I supported my wife when she went back to school to earn her degree. We walked through everything together.
So about 7 years ago, in spite of taking my medications and being active in therapy, emotions about my past started to catch up to me. I had been severely abused as a kid, and the memories kept replaying in my brain. I threw myself into my work and volunteering, desperate to prove to myself and the world that I was okay. It didn't work. It was like I was back in the past all over again, and pretty soon, things fell completely apart. I wanted to die.
I knew she was struggling, but she always pulled through before. So I was shocked when she said she was going to kill herself. Asked to go to the hospital.
I'd been suicidal before. I'd even tried taking my life several times as a kid. This time, I asked for help. I was admitted to an inpatient unit, but was not responding to treatment. After several weeks, they began ECT, shock therapy, which did point me in a better direction.
Karen had told me her whole story. Then she started sharing with me about what she had been through as a child. I was horrified. Her family had been in the news, and I remember the story. I just didn't know it was her who was living through this.
Ed recounted some of the details back to me from the old news reports, things I hadn't specifically told him. He did know this story. I was deeply embarrassed, and he loved me anyway. I finally learned to open up and let my husband in. But I wasn't out of the woods yet. I required many hospitalizations over the next few years.
Some of the hospitals that treated Karen wouldn't involve me in any of her treatment plans, even though she asked them to include me in the process. This left me clueless about how I could help her. It was not easy as a husband to witness my wife struggling from mental illness. I had some understanding of the pain and anguish she was in from my own mental health experiences. After witnessing all of the Karen's hospital stays, I learned that some providers care about family support and some don't. This leaves the caregiver in the dark. I was angry and didn't know what to do.
During one hospitalization, the social worker scheduled a session for my husband and I to meet with her together. I was grateful, but nervous.
There, I learned more about what I could do to make it better for my wife and came to understand more about her mental illness. There were things that I could do to help her feel safer at home. Every morning and in the evening, I look into my wife's eyes and can tell something is about whether she is having a good day or whether there's something is wrong. I asked her how she is doing and how I can help. I listen to what she asked of me.
I do need help, but I hate being fixed.
Yes, she does.
So just last month, things were unraveling. I shared with my therapist that I wasn't keeping myself safe, and she called Mobile Crisis Services. I asked Ed to sit in on the assessment. He helped me to make the decision to go inpatient voluntarily.
Oop, oh, turn the page, Ed. I can help my wife, but I have to also learn to take care of myself. I became involved in the NAMI family support groups, where I learned that I didn't cause it and couldn't fix it, but I could love her and learn more about mental illness. Sometimes I get really angry with the failures of the mental health system, but I've learned to channel that anger into advocacy work.
I am diagnosed with PTSD and depression with psychotic features. Many things help me manage my symptoms. My own involvement with NAMI, DBT, and practicing self-care before the crisis happens. Most importantly, I know I am not alone. Ed and I connect daily about how I'm doing. Others love me too. And sometimes, when I really need to, I actually cry.
There is hope when we walk together on our journey. And
This is our Brave. We're now pleased to introduce Sammy Hackett to share her poem and reflection entitled Life on Life's Terms.
How's everybody doing tonight? All right, life on terms. I grew up with active addiction in my home. However, my life seemed normal. I have a sister named Ray, who's 5 years older than me. We had a dog named Ripley. She was my baby. I was always outside playing with the neighborhood kids, constantly active in school sports. Basketball was my favorite. Something about the rock in my hand and being on the court made me feel free. It wasn't until my parents got divorced that my life started to unravel. I became angry and defiant. I stopped applying myself in school. I went from couch to couch, any place but with my parents. My freshman year of high school, I started to experiment with whatever substances I could get my hands on. I felt like I was on top of the world. I was working, going to school, and had the means to get high whenever I wanted. What more could I ask for now? In my eyes, nothing. I was happy. Until one day, my whole life came crashing down. I was forced to go live with my dad and his girlfriend, who never accepted me, made my life a living hell. I developed alopecia areata, which is hair loss due to high stress. Even though I was living in active addiction, I managed to make it to graduation day, where my school paid for a wig for me to wear the day of the ceremony. My family was so proud. They didn't think I was going to make it. At this point in time, my mother had discovered her journey in sobriety. This was my first dose of Alcoholics Anonymous. At first, I started to go to AA out of support for my mom. Then, as I kept coming and started to listen, I realized I had a problem myself. It was my time to seek help. I finally surrendered. I had a year sober and moved to North Carolina. This is when I decided to go to school to be an automotive technician. Unfortunately, I met a girl who got caught stealing, charging me as an accessory to larceny, resulting in me in not graduating and landing me in jail. That was a life-altering experience that I never want to have to go through again. Then I moved to Florida, discovering a passion for cooking, which became my primary source of income. I've always had a hidden passion for cooking, but I didn't know it until I started doing it. I had been a cook on the side, and I was ready for something different, so construction it was. After time went on, I became discontented with life again. On my birthday, May 27th, 2017, I moved back home. My mom and sister flew down to get me from Florida, and we drove back to New Hampshire. Once again, I found myself in a toxic relationship with no money. On August 16th, 2018, was the worst and hardest day of my life. I had gotten a call. My best friend, partner in crime, ride or die, brother, cousin, and soulmate was gone. He had overdosed. That was the day my heart and life came undone, and I had relapsed. He had lost his son a year prior, tragically. Our family and himself had suffered severe trauma. I felt there was nothing left to live for. My heart was gone. Even though we were family, he was the only one who understood me. To this day, you being gone doesn't make sense, and it may always be a mystery. But when God took you home, half my heart went with you. There will forever be a void in my soul. Today, I will keep my promise and build the empire we have always dreamed of together. As time goes on, he lives through me. I feel him with me every day, my guardian angel in the sky watching over me. Present day 2022, I am now again sober over 2 years and dealing with 3 autoimmune diseases. Thank you. Every day is a struggle, but the doctors are still trying to figure out what medications will work for me. I haven't been able to work for the last 7 months due to the pain, but this is where I discovered my poetry and who I am. I have fire in my soul and the courageous ability to stay sober one day at a time today, because no matter what I go through, I don't let it defeat me. I refuse to be beaten into submission again by this disease that tells me I can just have one, because for this alcoholic, 1 is too many and 1,000 is never enough. I'm still figuring out this thing called life. The blessings of it all are, I'm doing it sober, learning more and more about myself each day, and I stand up proud. Now I will read you a poem about my journey with addiction called Life on Life's Terms. Hi, my name is Sammy. I come from a family of addiction. This life is real, not fiction. 31 years old with 3 autoimmune diseases, no longer living life trying to appease. Growing up was rough, no doubt about that. That's why I always walked around with a hoodie and a hat. All the drugs, all the beers. I've dealt with addiction for so many years. Always hiding and running away. Now that's not how I have to live today. When I first came in the program, it was with my mom for support. When I first, hearing of a new way of life didn't make sense. I had to abort. Not knowing what recovery was about, I kept coming, started to listen, and figured it out. On 4/20/20, I crashed my car and almost died. That was my reality check coming alive. 3 days later, after coming to, my mom begged me to go to rehab. It was the right thing to do. So I admitted myself in a detox the very next day. 9 days later, I went to a rehab where I was to stay. I have lost so many to this disease. Now they're part of the oxygen that bursts from the trees. Those that have fallen are never forgotten. They are a reminder for me to stay sober and how I have lost them. Guardian angels above, guiding me through this journey called life. I now know what to do. Thanks to recovery, I see clearer than before. When one door closes, there's another open door. Now that I have recovery, I have so many things, blessings upon blessings upon blessings. Only the best things in life come free. Now I give it away to thee. Without recovery, I'd have nothing to give. I also wouldn't know how to live. Today I love with all my heart. People love and trust me back, now that's a start. There used to come a time when I couldn't love or be loved at all. There also came a time in my life I thought I would fall. Always remembering those I have lost, relapse always comes at an ultimate cost. My brother crashed his car due to a DUI. Only he and another came out alive. Reasons like this are why recovery is so important to me. My life is no longer a misery. I no longer living life deliriously. I take my recovery seriously. There's nothing I love more than seeing a newcomer come in. They remind me where I've come from and where I've been. The newcomer and old-timer are the most important in the room, constantly listening and never assume. All the willingness and gratitude within myself, now full of innate health. Thanks to recovery, I have my life back. I will continue this journey with a playlist and a backpack. This is my brave. Please welcome to the mic Jen Shaw with her essay, A Work in Progress.
How is everyone? All right. You're welcome. I'm glad to hear that. When I was a little kid, I used to run around in Wonder Woman underoos and a top sheet cape. I thought I was this invincible person who could do anything. I loved Wonder Woman. I thought she was this incredible warrior with her fierce strength, amazing armor, spectacular intelligence, and the ability to do anything she set her mind on. I thought she was a beautiful shining star of a woman. I wanted to be just like her, even down to flying an invisible jet. She made me feel a sense of complete and total freedom to be myself. But around the age of 13, I began to hear the ED voices that would control my life and actions for the better part of my life. People ask where an eating disorder starts, and for me, it was the ED voices. Little did I know I would begin a slow descent that I thought I could control. ED makes you think you can control it. If only I could spin around and transform like Wonder Woman and have the thoughts disappear, then everything would be better. An eating disorder makes you believe that every single thing you can do, you can control. One thing, this is the last time I'm gonna do this. It never happens. Once I purged, I felt like I could breathe for just a little while, like it was a pressure valve. An eating disorder is pernicious because it does continue to evolve all throughout your life. It manifests itself in far more ways than people realize. And you name it, I embraced it. It was an eating disorder, choose your own adventure. For more than 20 years, my excessive exercise was celebrated as a success story. My family, my friends accepted my excuses and turned a blind eye to my restricting and my purges. Our society of impossible beauty standards made it easy to hide in plain sight. In the summer of 2019, I decided to heal. I was spiraling out of control quicker than I could realize as I tried to manage ovarian cancer, a toxic job, my relationship falling apart, and running away from all of my problems. My friends, depression, anxiety, and the eating disorder took over my entire life. So I numbed out with drugs and alcohol. I'm mostly at the bottom of a whiskey or scotch bottle. I lived through this by constantly repeating a mantra from the book Damaged by Josephine Hart, like a mantra over and over again. Damaged people are dangerous because they know how to survive. I knew how to survive, and that was a dangerous thing because it was going to eventually kill me. My oncology team staged an intervention and threatened to have me committed. Imagine the people who saved you being the people to confront you because they were afraid that you were going to kill yourself this way. I asked for the summer to just be myself and that I would return in the fall to begin treatment. At the height of this last relapse, I would go from 200 pounds to 95 pounds. I was literally disappearing right in front of my own eyes, and I loved it. When I decided to go to rehab in Florida, I fought my treatment team with all my remaining strength. For the first time in my life, I said out loud what I did to myself. My rituals, my secrets, my life was open for the first time. It was a behavior I lied about and hid my entire life. Lies had become my superhero, and I had forgotten who I was. I was no Wonder Woman. In the earliest days of treatment, I had to admit to myself, my mother, and my therapist some of the darkest things I would say to myself. You are a failure, you are fat, you are ugly, you are stupid. God, the things I used to say to myself, repeating them over and over like a prayer. Things I would never say to my family, my friends, strangers on the street. But to myself, I would be crueler than necessary. No one ever tells you the realities of rehab. They make it seem like the movie with Sandy Bullock, 28 Days, when for me it was like living in my own personal Wes Craven film. You wake up every morning, get blood work done, get weighed at 5 a.m., get ready for breakfast. Each day I receive my schedule on where to go and what to do. Support group after support group, therapy session, dietitian, all in a day at food school. Repeating cheerful rehab platitudes extolling the virtues of doing hard things one day at a time. It's Groundhog Day. The same patterns to keep you on the therapeutic track, because day after day, you're literally ripping off scars. Patterns to keep you on the therapeutic track. And you start over each day. After 30 days, I returned to aftercare in Boston. No one met me at the airport with open arms, and I dragged my huge luggage across Logan Airport. I became a stronger, more resilient, although very raw version of myself. I had to start to live life, and I felt like I was coming up for air for the very first time. They tell you that the first year of treatment is the worst, and it is. You feel things for the first time that you never felt before. It was like living in hell and dancing on razors. It's really fun, guys. I tell you all to do it. I felt like I had removed armor and walked around without anything to protect me. It was raw and painful. Removing the armor of your life is not an easy task, and every day I have to, even to this day, I have to consciously understand what I am doing. All the old ways of coping I had to eliminate and learn something new. Damn it, God. To say it hurt is a complete and total understatement. There were times I would just want to give up and run away. I would say that to my friends when they called me. I don't think I can do this anymore. I will not lie. Year one, I did relapse, but I completely gave up drinking on Valentine's Day 2020. And I got serious about treatment in May of 2020. I plugged along and I worked my ass off. During this year, I had to learn self-compassion, self-empathy, self-care, a completely foreign concept. At first, I thought it was like Gwyneth Paltrow would goop me to death with consciously outrageous candles in the bath. Honestly, guys, I had to ask somebody what it was and what it really meant. An adult who had no idea what it meant to be nice to herself, much less what it meant to care for herself in the best, most possible way. For me, self-care is about maintaining my mental and physical health. This could be anything from paying bills, cleaning my house, going to therapy every week, and yes, everyone, taking a bath every night. I have to make very conscious choices every day to work on these. I start my day examining choices because I'm rewiring my brain to understand that this is what needs to be done to live the life I deserve, that joy and happiness are okay for me to experience. As I go through the summer, and I made it to my September treatment anniversary, it was bittersweet. I think of September as the month I decided to live. Like really live and show myself the empathy and compassion I absolutely needed as a human being. September is a fraught month for me. It is the month I found out I had ovarian cancer and dealt with ED. It was a triple punch. So I reclaimed September as the month of life. I was going to take a month and season and make it my very own. Although the fall is a season where life goes into dormancy, as the Greek philosopher Heraclitus once said, the only constant is change. I finally understood that autumn reminds us that our bodies, minds, and surroundings are always developing. It focuses on the impermanence of life, emphasizing how vital it is to embrace the presence. By doing so, we can savor what we have before it is gone. For the first time in my life, I realized how I needed to be here now. I even had it tattooed on my body to remind me. I still look at this every day because it is going to be forever emblazoned on my body. I learned to accept the idea of letting go and embracing the temporary nature of life. Accepting this is the ultimate act of bravery, and you can't rebuild the armor, the good new armor, until you understand this. It was not until I found Audre Lorde's brilliant explanation of on life that I understood what I was striving for during this time. Caring for oneself is not self-indulgence. It is self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare. I work like hell on recovery every day, and I cherish it. Even when I screw up my ED recovery or have a challenging day, I am so happy and know I am coming out on the other side. This one act of choosing recovery is empathy to myself. All the people out there choosing recovery every single day are choosing self-compassion and empathy, and it is brave. I choose life. I choose love. I choose joy, despite my best efforts to not accept it. I hope the same for all of you. Choose to be brave, everyone. I'm happy to introduce the beautiful Emily Sherlach, who will share her poem and reflection, The Past 10 Years.
The past 10 years. They said she was made of fire. She said I am quick to anger. That is because all the colors inside of me turn to rage when they are silenced. They said emotion dysregulation. She said my mood is a temperamental ocean, enormous and cold and infinite directions. They said marked impulsivity, inability to regulate to stimuli. She said when everything is an emergency, it is impossible to prepare for disaster. They said frequent suicide gestures, as in the physicality of speech. Just as the poem demonstrates that which has no words, so do the injuries illustrate that which is unimaginable. They said a pattern of violent relationships. She said my ocean loves just as deep as it hates. My ocean carries its history and vomits it upon the shore. The sea glass soft as my apologies. They said difficult to treat. She said, how do you disentangle the root from a tree? How do you uncurl a bonsai from its contortions even though you know it will not live long this way? How do you learn to stop hurting yourself when it's the closest you've been to being quiet? They call me borderline like it's an insult, but I know what it's like to feel limitless. A person who feels in extremes is told to be quiet and is taught control. And when she disappears, all around the doctors gasp as if they did not intend to make her this way. They call me borderline because I am the border between extremes. My highs are mountains and my lows are valleys. The borderline that climbs my skin, it speaks of the nights I didn't know how to feel this much. My ocean salt flows out beside me. I would rather let my petals fall and understand how truly beautiful it is to grow than never to have bloomed at all. Humans are born to adjust to the actions of the galaxy's nature. When there is a hurricane and a town is destroyed, everyone from around the country helps to support those who lost everything. Although, when my hurricane came 10 years ago, I was pushed away. My mental illness scared people. I had rivers flowing from my arms and legs. But inside my body was this innocent, scared, lost, grieving, and hurt creature who didn't know how to show its emotions without breaking through the soul of my body. And when my creature would break through and tell emotions, doctors would hold me down and restrain me and put me on more medications or treatments. So I taught myself to be silent and to ask for help through self-harm. This got me hospitalized 49 times in the last 10 years. I was put through multiple rounds of ECTs, most likely tried every medication possible, and even tried a medication trial. The times I was in the hospital were periods of months or even years. I lived with 24 other mentally unwell peers for those times, and that was difficult. Some of my peers would be very violent, walk around naked, or would yell and talk to things that were not really there. We had good days and we had bad days. But when I was in the hospital, I would self-harm every day more than once. So when I was able to leave the hospital for short periods of times, I had a very bad record to my name. Everyone knew me as the girl who was very dangerous to herself. So then, if I even asked for something or to do something that had a slight chance of being dangerous, I was sent back to the hospital, even if I was not going to use it that way. Wherever I went from there on after, I had cops standing outside the doors, safety precautions in place, and always treated differently. When I go to the ER for medical emergencies, I am put in the back and forgotten about for hours. Then, one day, I got a new doctor, and she saw something in me. She saw that I was a fighter and I was struggling to survive. So she stopped all interventions. That's when my life changed. My soul came back to life. But this time, not by the scars on my body, it was by my voice. It took me 10 years, but I realized that I'm as strong as anyone. I don't need to hurt myself anymore to let my feelings out. I can use my voice. That day I had a grand mal seizure from stopping so many medications so quickly. But that day was also the day I started to hope and dream again. It took me a while to get back on my feet, but after a short time and another new doctor, I finally found the right medications and therapy. Then one day I was walking outside, and I just had a thought that I don't need to self-harm anymore. That was the last day that I self-harmed. Then after 2 years and 6 months of being in the hospital, I was discharged. Getting home was amazing. Trying to fit back into the real world was hard. I had little to no contact with technology for 10 years. My license was taken away until I am stable. I'm living with family until my team decides I am safe enough to live on my own. But I had to learn how to do everything over again. How to bake and cook, how to use a cell phone or the internet. So much has happened in the past 10 years that I was not a part of. I'm still trying to catch up. Now I hope you can see someone that generally loves everyone, at least tries really hard to. I try to put others first because it's a big part of me believes it's the right thing to do. I hope you see someone who fights for the good things and cherishes life and laughter and seeing beauty in the small moments. That's who I think I am anyway. But with my borderline brain, which is wired differently, who I really am, and how my personality disorder holds strong onto me are mingled, sometimes I'm a different person. But even though borderline personality disorder is a big part of me now, it's not solely who I am. It's not an excuse for what it has done within my interpersonal relationships, but it is a reason. As I get older, I realize more and more that borderline personality disorder influenced why I did certain things in my past. But I don't understand fully why I made those decisions then. But I stand here in the present with open arms to those who love me, who have loved me, who no longer talk to me anymore. And I say I'm sorry for the things I have done. I'm sorry if I hurt you, but I take responsibility for who I am and how I am now. Whatever role you have or had in my life, I want you to know that you have made such a positive impact in bigger ways than you know. I will still make mistakes such as life, but I'm always putting an effort into being better. Borderline personality disorder is a big part of who I am now, but it's not me. It's a part of me. And whether I'm being pushed away because the hurricane is too strong, or I'm being wrapped up in a blanket after the storm, I will always try. I will fight every day to live. Remember, after every storm, there is a rainbow. Next, we are lucky to have musician and writer Heather Tobin here to present her essay and original song, All Strung Out.
Hello, everyone. All strung out. The phrase is most identified with the debilitation from physical addiction, with images of pale and wan souls shivering in the throes of agony. For me, it's a term that encompasses the emotional state of being in complete devastation from the beast that is despair, a beast that I have contended with since the dawn of childhood memory. I can recall even as a young girl, of 5 years old, a sullen darkness that would envelop my whole being, rendering me feeling alone and anxiety-ridden, fearful of those shadows lurking in the night as nightmares haunted me. Such deep sadness, coupled with relentless phobias, had my parents scrambling to find child psychiatrists to try and quell my addled brain. For a while, this helped. It did. And I had my joyful reprieve from depression and anxiety for a few years at a time. However, by high school, the beast had returned. Normally an ambitious, academic, and social girl, my junior year, I found myself spiraling into the abyss, feeling languid and hopeless. I would take to my bed, stay sick from school, avoid phone calls and visits from my friends for longer and longer stretches. However, just as a vicious tempest over the ocean subsides, eventually, light would shine forth again through the gloom, and I would return to my perky, wry-humored self. I would become part of the world again. College, however, proved more difficult, as that anxiety and that depression had a new companion emerge, extreme highs and extreme lows in my mood. The newfound freedom of a sprawling university and enormous lecture halls of 500 students meant that I could just slip by, show up for exams and sleep off my nights after attending those all-nighter parties. I didn't know it then, but I was all strung out with bipolar II. Back in the 1980s, less was known about the many facets of bipolar, and the stigma of mental illness was a daunting specter that proved a roadblock to receiving care for me. I could be strung out and symptomatic, but as long as I made the grades and kept up superficial appearances, I eked by. At the time, I became fascinated by archaeology, the hunt for the elusive, magical ancient civilizations that had been discovered. I was an avid fan of the Indiana Jones movies. The search for the Holy Grail was my favorite. I realized that we all have our own figurative Holy Grail we seek in our lives, and I wondered, what is my grail in this life? What divine cup do I seek to drink from to feel truly aligned with who I am? My struggles with mental illness continued after college, into grad school, and beyond. My search for my meaning, my grail, was interrupted by stints in psychiatric wards, when the desire to eradicate myself from existence became all-encompassing, when the collision of highs and lows had me too strung out to function in any capacity. I had made headway as a professional musician and writer, traveling in the US, and also doing musical and poetic performances. To create art, to heal, was my grail. Even in the stark, sterile environs of psych ward common rooms, I had always scribbled away in a journal the need to capture my thoughts in prose, poetry, and songs, a catalyst for the healing process. Well, time flies swiftly, as we know, and here I am, 53 years old, married with 3 cats. Not a bad thing. My past year has been especially brutal, with the loss of my beloved cousin to suicide, plus the slow, devastating decline of my father, who is my hero, to Alzheimer's, along with a much-needed stay at the psych ward again when that beast of bipolar, coupled with much grief, returned. I was all strung out on it all. But here I stand. I stand before you, for my pursuit of my own grail has expanded. My grail is to show you that this is my brave. And so, with that, I'm going to sing you a song. Mic check. Oh, you're on. Well, right away, that's good. I'm just going to adjust this. My incredible tall stature, as you saw, not. All right. I'll string out. Are you Austrian now? Have your dreams all dwindled? Will you seek me out? Get your soul searching for your grave. See if you can find it while the other fails. Are you lost your eye? Will you let me in? What's it all about? Where can we begin? Where can we begin? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It is with absolute great pleasure that I introduce you to Bishop Rob Hirschfeld with his incredible essay.
Thank you, Heather. Just so humbled to be here among these heroes in my life I've just got to know. I recently saw one of those Lego sets, those little boxes where you get all these pieces in a kit. And you get a set of instructions, and it appears that you can make absolutely anything. Spaceships, old ruins, houses, buildings, anything, cars. And in my 20s, during the 1980s, so you can do the math, I was doing my best to build my own life's Lego set. And if I were to write out what was going on outwardly during that time, it would seem, on the surface at least, to be the best of times. My kit, at least the set of instructions that I seem to have adopted for myself, was for a happily married Episcopal priest, a father, husband. I had had a couple unhappy false starts before then. I had an early attempt and a failure at a marriage. There was a couple detours and some strange careers that were clearly just not the right fit. But almost as soon as I realized something was not fitting, I knew that I could go back and get another set of directions and start again. And I should say right now that I was completely and continue to be really lucky, because I had the capacity and the resources to have a second or a third, fourth, fifth chance, in no small part because I was born quite privileged, with advantages that many do not have. But then I found myself with a small and growing family, a position in a vocation that gave me ample opportunity to grow, to be creative, to build and live in community, and live with the values of dignity, justice, peace, love, all that. The outward struggles and strivings had been pretty much resolved, but there was something out of sorts within me. Something was not right, and it had crept up in such a way that I didn't see it coming. I just heard that phrase, that adage, a fish does not know that it's wet, nor does it need to, I suppose. But when you're depressed, your illness can swallow you up in ways that you don't first see. And it can hurt in ways that you almost grow so accustomed to so accustomed to that you can be hurt and feel damaged that you're not really aware of, or you deny, and you accommodate until you just can't anymore. One night, in what would seem on the surface just like the end of any day of fullness, I felt a certain kind of sadness and gloom and fatigue. I forced myself at the end of the day to go for a run, to go for too much exercise. It was mid-November, it was dark outside, and I ran hard because I thought I could just push through and punch this despair, this block. And at that time, I was obsessed with distance, with body weight, body image, the need to succeed, to push hard, to accomplish, to get to the front of the line, all that stuff. And I made it home after that long run, and I noticed the house, which is a modest house, a little raised ranch, and the lights from inside the house were kind of glowing into the darkness outside into the night. I could hear my wife, Polly, singing and laughing with the two kids at the time. Each were under the age of 5. It was getting to be bath and bedtime. But suddenly I was slammed with a fatigue I could feel in my bones. I lay down on the cold grass and just noticed the steam rise up from my body and my breath go up into the moonlight, and I thought, suddenly, I just want to disappear. What if I just disappeared, like the vapor into the night sky? What if I just put down everything and said goodbye to all this and just died? It was enormously attractive. Suddenly, I saw no point in going on. Though on the surface there were so many reasons to go on: love, family, truth, faith, community, God. All the things I had spent my early youth and my 20s, my young adulthood pursuing, studying, embracing, they all seemed suddenly to amount to nothing. Nothing. Like breath that evaporates in the frigid darkness. But somehow I stood up. I answered a call to come back inside to help with the bath time or to pee. Whatever it was, it got me upright and I went inside. But I was shaken. Later that week, that same feeling came over me as I was driving home from work. It was dark again, and we lived at that time off this twisting country road in northeastern Connecticut. There was this turn in the road, and at that turn was this immense oak tree. I had just come from a rather fraught meeting about which I have no memory, but I just remember it was difficult. And I thought to myself, why don't I just take this Toyota and plunge it right into this tree and let this all go? Why not? To this day, I don't know what saved me. Thinking back, I remember that there were little things made me really irritable. It still happens. There's probably somebody in the audience here who knows that. I get impatient. Sometimes, at that time, I could feel like my scalp was tingling on fire, and all that heat, and like rusted nails inside my head, trying to poke out of my skull. That's what it feels like. A weight, an agony, a need to cry, but an absolute inability to weep, to make tears, a sigh, too deep for words. And it went on that way for months, and I did my level best to hide it. I began to feel separated from everything and everyone. Not only did I not feel pleasure, I didn't even want to feel pleasure. I felt compelled to eradicate all pleasure, including just eating or touch, laughter. Now, I was, and I still am, I suppose, driven by duty, thanks, Mom and Dad, obligation, honor, and I chose at that time to fake it for the sake of my family and my career. I had to keep up appearances, but the need to keep up appearances only made it worse. And the weight of my depression turned into a kind of inner twisting, like barbed wire stretched inside of me. One day, a friend said, "Rob, listen to me. You are not well. You are becoming less than I know you to be. You need help. I am worried, and I'm going to try to find you some help." At first, I stiff-armed my friend, because that's the nature of this disease. But then I realized somebody else was noticing that I was spending so much energy and effort to hide, and finally gave me permission to accept what I needed, which was help. I needed help. I still need help. Amazingly, there was help around then. Soon I found myself in a psychiatrist's office. Complete stranger. He asked me questions for about an hour, maybe even a little longer, an hour and a half, which is unheard of. But he did. He asked me questions I didn't really want to answer in order to get a picture of what was going on. At the end of that session, he said, "Your friend is right. You are sick. You're very sick. And you need help. And I think I can help you feel better." Then he described the kind of therapy that he practiced. It was a combination of talk, what we call psychodynamic talk therapy, and there was medication. He handed me a card with his phone number, which I thought was like against all the rules. And then he said this, "And my therapy works much better if you're alive." And though that statement had a kind of tinge of humor, it went through me like a shock. I was indeed in trouble and I needed help, and there was a shitload at stake. And that help was coming right towards me. Now, amazingly, I still see that same psychiatrist periodically. In fact, we'll talk tomorrow, because after this, I'll need to talk to him. I also have a team of people who I've managed to assemble through the years. My work brings me close to all sorts of pain and agony in this world. Much of it brings such deep and troubling sorrow that I can barely stand it. Sometimes I feel like I'm just wading in waters of despair. No, sometimes I actually feel like I've just dove headfirst into despair. This world is often not conducive to mental or spiritual happiness. Can I get an amen? So I have what I call a pit crew. And when I have to stop and get off the road and stop what I'm doing, and I get help. And sometimes I'm part of somebody else's pit crew. And sometimes my secret power is simply to say, "I don't know," or "I'm sorry," or "I need help." I've gone from wanting to disappear with my breath into the void to learning how to breathe again, and the power of breath. Moment by moment, day by day, again and again and again. So my pit crew includes my colleagues, a therapist, spiritual director, a prayer partner, a coach. It's embarrassing the kind of resources it takes to have me stand before you. It's not embarrassing because I need them. What embarrasses me is it's tragic, and I would say sinful, that our society, our culture, our healthcare delivery system is so underfunded, under-resourced, overstressed, that what's available to a guy like me isn't available to everybody. When I'm in a gathering, and I'm often in a gathering, I ask sometimes, who among the gathered assembly has been touched, either personally or in their circle of friends or family, by mental illness of any kind? 100% of the hands go up. Everyone. And that breaks my heart. And it makes me decide to share this story. My brave, for the sake of all those who have and are still striving to live a life that I believe God yearns for all to enjoy and cherish. And that's my brave. And now it is my delight to present to you by video Moira Cordelia, who's sharing Here I Stand, which is her original poem and her reflection. Moira.
The sun rises slowly in the morning on this planet. Hues of every color. Things around us. What is money and fame? I'm looking for a place where neither exists. Everyone needs food and a home, so why are so many in need? I'm looking for a planet where there is food for all and homes for the homeless. Beautiful weather always, nothing to be late for. Why do we work so much? We work our lives away. So many obligations surround us. I am numb to all of the nonsense surrounding me as the sun sets slowly in the night on this planet. The infant, the toddler, the child inside, the betrayal of trust, the lack of safety, extreme heat fills the air. The abuse, the crumbling foundation, the fear, the disassociation to survive, smoke rises from all around. The lies, the threats, the manipulation, sky is receding, turned to black. So many years spent in shame, denial of self and people-pleasing. Lightning flashes through the smoke. The past isn't the present. The present isn't the past. We are living in the present. Are you thinking of the past? The present can be a reflection of the past. Notice and let go. The future is just left to be. As I wandered from day to day, my life always seemed to turn dark and gray. Deep down inside, I was torn apart. Deep down inside, I was holding back the tears from all my pain, holding back the hurt and all my rage. All the years holding back this hurt deep within my soul. While my soul still ached with agony, all of my feelings just disappeared. My heart races, my breath is shallow, here I stand. My higher powers were the beam of light that shined through the darkest night. They are the sky I look upon, the wind that blows onto my skin and through my hair, the ground I should walk upon. They are everything. They gave me courage, the courage that made me fight harder. I thought I was alone. I was told to put it behind me, but my higher powers led me on a journey into self-reflection and self-help, led me to find support, being seen, heard, and validated, recognizing patterns and relationship dynamics. Leaves begin to fall, more and more than all, figuring out how to navigate in this world. Hail pounds, the wind sighs, the stars up so high. In a noisy, busy, conflicted world, the forest laughs, my heart races, my breath is shallow, here I stand. Coming back to the breath, the sea runs still, the trees at own free will, self-soothing, honoring the self. I was a good child, and the abuse does not define me. At home in my body, willing to accept divine healing, strong and sound, joy in every moment, all is well in my heart. There is space for me, and I belong here too. I am in charge of my body, my mind, and my life. As the sun sets slowly in the night on this planet, here I stand. This is my brave. I never thought I could share my personal story until I joined a survivor support group and went through a 12-step program. My support group helped me become stronger in many ways. Women empowering other women creates a safe place to allow for expansiveness. I'm grateful for every survivor in our group. As a child, I instinctively knew how to cope and calm my nervous system by singing. Instead of walking, I skipped everywhere and sang, zippity-doo-dah. You would never guess I was suffering from abuse. I was told my abuse was a secret, and if I told anyone, they wouldn't believe me because I was just a young child. At 12 years old, I confided in my father's wife about the abuse. Once my father discovered I had spoken to his wife, he threatened me. I had digestive issues all through middle school, and I took Pepto-Bismol every morning before school. My mother suffered from severe depression and needed to be hospitalized. By the time I was 17, I went through bouts of self-sabotage, addictions, eating disorders, and relationship issues off and on into my early 20s. At 24, I went to a holistic psychotherapist who asked me some tough questions. Realizing I had a problem was the first step. I delved into self-help books and made a choice to heal my ancestral trauma line. I began practicing yoga and juicing and living a non-toxic lifestyle. It wasn't easy at first. I had to discontinue friendships that no longer supported my new lifestyle. When I found out I have auditory processing disorder, it was like finding the missing puzzle piece. Often the cause of APD isn't known. I believe in my case, APD was caused by complex trauma. My hearing is normal. It's my brain that is slower to process information and regurgitate what is being said. I'm better one-on-one or in small groups since understanding speech with background noise is like trying to hear someone talk underwater or like listening to Charlie Brown's mother. Meeting with a speech pathologist was a gift I decided to give my inner children. The speech pathologist taught me more coping strategies and memory exercises. We also worked on speech and noise and recall. It was challenging and I got migraines at times, but I see improvements. For a long time, I could only remember traumatic memories. I decided to make a list of all the things I enjoyed as a child, playing jacks, hopscotch, double dutch, and all those hand-clapping games like Miss Mary, Mac, Mac, Mac. I included a list of what I enjoy presently: jump roping, aerial dance, playing with my dog, yoga, being out in nature, roller skating, singing, meditating, positive affirmations, journaling, poetry, music, sewing, coloring, and mentoring. I always wanted to name myself, so I legally changed my name, Moira, which means destiny, and Cordelia, which means heart of a lion. I've learned to establish healthy boundaries, especially with unsupportive people. I've learned the first decision is usually the best one, and to stop second-guessing myself. I've learned to be gentle with myself and to be proud of myself when I notice growth. I focus on my breathing throughout the day. Each inhalation stimulates the heart rate, while each exhalation relaxes the nervous system. I learned that I can't help others unless I take care of myself first. I became increasingly aware of my higher powers or spirit guides. I've been visited by my great-grandmother and my best friend who passed away. They visit me in dreams and in visions while meditating. Mindfulness keeps me in the present moment and assists me in accepting my humaneness and my inner children. I'm careful what I consume online, on social media, and on TV. My favorite yoga teacher always says, where attention goes, energy flows. Currently, I operate 3 micro-businesses. Earthly Roots Hair Studio was created due to my clients' increasing need for healthier products, and mine as well. In 2007, after 10 years of working in hair salons, I developed allergic reactions to many chemicals I was exposed to. I researched alternatives and eventually decided to open my own salon when I could no longer work in a traditional salon environment. I'm still allergic to many chemicals, including fragrance chemicals. Being allergic to these chemicals makes it extremely challenging to function in public places, including hospitals and doctors' offices. I've been wearing a mask in public places for many years before the pandemic began. I facilitate trauma-informed hatha yoga and breath coaching for other women survivors, and I help other holistic entrepreneurs with their businesses. I'm happy with who I am and how far I've come. Thank you for listening to my journey and facilitating a safe place for me to share. To wrap up our evening of storytelling, please welcome Teresa Moeller to deliver her piece, Voices Then, Voices Now.
Hi, everybody. Voices then, voices now. My life is filled with voices. When I was a preteen, voices would be inside my head and carry on conversations. At gatherings, I would sit in the corner and write down what the voices were saying. I've been a puppeteer since age 7. I was good at doing different voices for my puppet characters. Those are some examples of voices then. I was in This Is My Brave in 2019, which is a dream come true because I had always wanted to be brave enough to share my story with the public. In that show, I described the many aspects of puppetry in my life. My puppets had taken me over and become too real when I was in college at age 19. I heard my puppet voices and saw them in hallucinations. I had all kinds of voices in my life. Some of them were unhealthy. I was diagnosed with schizophrenia in 1985 while staying in a psychiatric hospital for 3 months. I was put on different medications, had ongoing treatment, all for my mental health problems. I also started practicing Nichiren Buddhism in the Soka Gakkai International, which has been helping me since then. But today's story is about replacing unhealthy voices with healthy voices. I was able to gradually have my voices become less frequent. Now, one main reason I became a puppeteer is that I like to change my voice and do different characters like a grandmother to the child and New Hampshire's own Fritz Weatherby from New Hampshire Chronicle. A few years ago, I saw an advertisement for an introductory workshop to learn voiceovers. I never had heard of voiceovers before, but the idea of using my voice for animation, video games, commercials, or narration appealed to me. Since I took that first course, I have expanded my voiceover training. I was even cast in a small film project as a character working a marionette. I have received a great deal of praise from my peers in the voiceover community for my voiceovers. I am all about the voice. I also like to use my voice to advocate for mental health. I am on the board of NAMI New Hampshire, their public policy and diversity, equity, and inclusion committees. I was recently nominated by the executive director of NAMI New Hampshire to sit on the National Peer Council. I give my input about mental health systems for New Hampshire. I use my voice for politics. I was recently appointed to a political committee, which is another dream come true. In addition, I paint watercolors, sell them, and continue to do puppet shows. I very rarely hear my puppet voices or have them take me over. I have come a long way. Most areas of my life are significantly improved. Telling my story through This Is My Brave in 2019 propelled me to make advances in my life. Well, the story about the voices is over for now. I will continue to use all my voices that are healthy. Voices may be used to advocate, share, express a feeling, or to start a wave that will be created into society. Tonight, everyone here used their voice. You were brave and are brave. We now challenge you, the audience, to use your voice. I hope this carries on to show others what This Is My Brave is all about. It is about courage to bust the stigma and discrimination in society so we are all free to express. This is our brave.
Thank you, Grace.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rebecca Wolf. I have the pleasure of working for Riverbend Community Mental Health and for being a part of This Is My Brave for our 4th year in a row. These stories, well, first, we have to thank you all so much for being here tonight, and one more round of applause for our group of storytellers. These stories would not be possible without the help of our amazing director, Ellen Desmond. Ellen, please join me on the stage. Ellen puts in hours of workshopping with our storytellers to help them craft the perfect piece for the stage, and she does so with unmatched grace and patience, allowing our storytellers the space and courage to find their stories, find their voice, and share their stories with you. So thank you, Ellen. I'd also like to thank our mental health professional, Walker Mondock. Please come on stage. Walker has spent lots of time ensuring that our storytellers have felt safe, supported, and grounded throughout this process. We are so grateful for their support. All right, we'd like to take a moment to ask our audience to show some solidarity with our storytellers. So please stand if you have struggled with mental health or if you love someone who has. Yes, look around. We are all affected by mental illness.
Thank you. Thank you.
And simply being here tonight was an incredible start to building upon a movement of people who are willing to be more open and supportive to those struggling, so thank you all. If you or someone you know is struggling, help is available and you don't have to suffer alone. We have resources available in the lobby, and if you'd like, you can also join our storytellers upstairs to thank them for their bravery and enjoy some light refreshments. How about one more round of applause for these amazing storytellers. Thank you guys so much for coming.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
You're a prisoner, can't escape. You're a decision that I never make. Heard me laughing, you heard me weep and moan. When it's good, it's so, so good. When it's gone, it's gone. They say that time will kill the pain. I say that pain is gonna kill my time. Lord, won't you save me or leave me alone? 'Cause when it's good, it's so, so good. When it's gone, it's gone. Oh, gone. you're right above my mind. Don't do anything you can't deny. I could never be your pawn. Oh, 'cause when it's good, it's so, so good. When it's gone, it's gone. With some dream